Hey everybody, it's Joel again. I'm going to be doing something kind of interesting today. I'm going to get Scryfall to give me 10 random cards, and I'm going to be reacting to them. If I've seen them before, I can give my 2 cents. If I haven't seen them before, then we'll see how we go. It's slightly different than talking about mana rocks constantly. Alrighty, so without further ado, our first card is the card called Power Stone Fracture. It's a sorcery for 1 and a black, and as an additional cost, including its mana cost, you have to sacrifice an artifact or creature. Its ability is to destroy target creature or planeswalker. Right, so off to a pretty average start, starting off with some common draft chaff, I think. 2 mana destroying any creature or planeswalker is a good rate, 100%. I can't really think we're going to dispute that. Being sorcery is not ideal, obviously. Like, you know, you want your spot removal to be instant speed, ideally. Love the artwork on this card. I think Brothers War had some outstanding artwork. But this is no exception. Pretty good. You could probably get away with this in a deck where you're wanting to sacrifice artifacts for creatures, so it's kind of like a sack outlet. But it's like removal. I don't know if it's very good removal. Even like Swords and Path, lately I don't think I am playing as much, just because I value board wipes a bit more than spot removal. This is definitely not the best card I've ever seen, not the best spot removal I've ever seen. Mono black, you've got a lot of options, like Infernal Grasp. That's probably the thing I'd compare this to. It's pretty much unconditional destroy a creature. This also destroys planeswalkers. I don't know how many planeswalkers you guys play against, but I don't play against a lot, to be honest, even though I play a decent amount of planeswalkers. So yeah, I don't really know. This is a pretty... it's pretty interesting. I mean, I haven't seen it, I guess. It's common draft chaff, so... I mean, we might be getting a few of those today, but we'll see how we go. We might get something a bit more interesting to talk about. This is at least a fairly playable card. I mean, if someone played this, I would, you know, if I could see it, I'd be like, yeah, okay, you want to sacrifice stuff? Yeah, you got a bunch of removal. Like, it's not the best option, but it's there and it's playable and it does what you want to do, and it's 2 mana. It's like efficient. If this was like, I mean, I've seen like I'd rather play this than like a 5 mana whatever contract killing, I think it's called, the one that like makes treasure. I think that's 5 mana. Yeah. So yeah, nothing too noteworthy to start with. All right. How come this had to happen? Okay, so out of all the cards, out of every single card in the entire game that Scryfall can give me, it gave me basic planes. Okay, I do have a few things to say about this card, surprisingly. Basic planes goes in white decks. Ooh. Gives me a little bit of a chance to talk a bit about basic lands, just to be a bit interesting for this segment. I like playing basic lands because of the cool new artworks and stuff and all the treatments and things that they give to basics. I actually do like having matching basics in my decks. I don't know, people are, you know, mismatched basics and stuff that just, they rub me the wrong way, alright? You gotta have matching basics, otherwise you are a psychopath. I feel like I personally run a few more basics than I technically should, because I like having matching basics and I like having my decks have that aesthetic. But yeah, this is a basic land. As really only so much I can talk about with this. The artwork is pretty much the only thing you get. I mean, you're never going to go wrong in a deck with basic lands because you can just play them and they're the most simple form of mana in the entire game. Absolutely can't go wrong. Definitely people have been shying away from playing basics recently because of all the new like utility lands and the better fixing and stuff. And technically, and it does exist, you can play decks with all non-basic lands. You shouldn't, because there are cards that hose that sort of strategy, like Blood Moon. People get salty about Blood Moon. I think if someone dropped a Blood Moon on me, I would be kind of impressed because you actually have to include Blood Moon in your deck to host someone with it. I mean, personally, I don't feel that bad about it. Like, if someone has, like, again, a Blood Moon or something that's really specific, like a Rest in Peace, they don't do anything to advance your own game state, and they presumably don't really have any like other synergies with your deck, so you're doing it just to screw over opponents, right? I actually kind of have respect for you because you actually had to put it in your deck and you had to actually like it. Basic lands are fine. You can play as many as you like. You can play a deck with all basic lands. See these planes here? You can play 40 of those in a mono white deck, and I wouldn't care if they were all the same. They have to be all the same. If they're different, I might just... I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I'm capable of. Anyway, okay, apparently I just reviewed basic planes. Alright, hopefully we get something more interesting. The next one we're getting into is Wishclaw Talisman. This card I'm very familiar with because I have a friend that plays it in about every of his decks, and I play it in a couple of my own decks. It's an artifact. It costs 1 and a black. It enters with 3 wish counters on it. And the way it works is you pay 1 and you tap it, and then you remove a wish counter from it to demonic tutor any card into your hand, but then you have to give the actual Wishclaw Talisman to an opponent. So the next turn they can remove one of the wishes and give it to another opponent, or back to you. It's a tutor. It's actually a pretty good tutor too. Like, for all things considered, it's a kind of a grim tutor, right? It's a 3 mana, you get anything into your hand. There is that downside of you do have to give it to your opponent. It's a real downside because they actually might be able to make use of it too. Now, usually the person who plays the Wishclaw Talisman, in my experience, doesn't give it to the person who is going to make most advantage of it. Like, they'll give it to the person who's losing, or they'll give it to the person who's not playing like a combo deck. I always think it's a pretty interesting card. It's a pretty fun card too when it comes up, because if it's like, oh, the Wishclaw, I want it, give it to me, and you know you can make deals with it. Like, you can say, hey, if you give me the talisman, I won't attack you, or something along those lines. Never really works out that way in practice, but in theory, you know, could happen. So, all right, so that's an interesting card. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Ashaya Soul of the Wild. This is a commander actually, but I'll be evaluating it as a 99 card, I think, to start with. So what this is, it's a legendary star elemental. It costs 3 green. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Also, non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. Right, this card is very played actually. I've seen this in a lot of decks. It turns itself into a land and also all creatures you control into lands. So it's got at least power toughness equal to the number of creatures and lands you control, which is just outstanding. It's incredibly massive. It's huge. The way I sort of see this played is in like landfall decks. Thankfully this does say like non-token creatures, so kind of just means that all your creatures kind of become landfall triggers as well. Yeah, it's a pretty decent card. It's definitely played. It's definitely powerful. It's got a very like universal ability. The other thing that I've actually seen this card do before is protect someone's entire team from those non-land permanent sweepers, like a planar cleansing, right? Destroy all non-land permanents. Just simple. If this thing turns all your creatures into lands, they're going to get immunity from that sort of sweeper. So actually a really powerful ability that I think it's a bit overlooked. So yeah, pretty good card. Even if this is just like a big thing, like if you just want big power toughness on your field, this is actually another pretty good option for that. You could play this in like any deck technically. I wouldn't be batting too much of an eye if you just played it in a random deck. So yeah, it's not the worst card I've ever seen. Alrighty, so now we're getting to... Actually, it's another commander where we've got Josu Ves Lich Knight. It's a 4/5 legendary zombie knight. It costs 2 black, or you can kick it for an additional 5 and black. It's got menace. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you make 8 2/2 black zombie knight creatures with menace. Oh, holy, alright. I'm surprised I've actually never seen this card in a game before. I think I've seen this card in passing, just looking around at different cards. But yeah, this is, it's a pretty decent token generator in black actually. It's expensive, yeah, it's 10 mana, but black decks, especially mono black decks, have a lot of like mana doublers, and they have a lot of like, you know, Cabal Coffer shenanigans. It makes zombie tokens, so I'm assuming where this is played the most is in like zombie decks. Although I don't know if I would play this as a zombie tribal commander if I built it. The tokens are knights as well, so you could probably lean more into knight tribal in mono black. I mean, that Esper Knight guy, the Eminence one, is just monstrously better for Knight Tribal than Josu Vest here. But as like as like a black token maker, it kind of reminds me of actually that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Army of the Damned a little bit. This is actually interesting that they all have Menace. This is going to be really hard to block this army, like incredibly hard. If you actually have like Reconnaissance Mission or those types of effects, like Toski, something like that, where you like draw a card each time a creature you control deals combat damage to somebody. These menacing knights are going to be incredibly good for that type of ability. It's niche. I wouldn't play it in like any token deck, but perhaps if you want the upside of them being knights zombies, or you want the upside of this being a creature as well. So this is a token generator that is a creature, whereas like an Army of the Damned or any of those white ones, most of the white ones are like sorceries or sometimes instants. Maybe if you have ways of getting creatures back to your hand, you could reuse this guy a bit more easily in black than perhaps an Army of the Damned, right? So that's another thing that needs to be considered with this card. I think it's a pretty good card. I actually think people should play it a little more and just forget about it being zombies or knights or whatever, and it's just a decent token maker for your like aristocrats decks. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, it's 10 mana. Plus, it's not like it's useless. You can just cast it for 4, and it's a 4/5 menace, which is bad, to be clear, but it's something, and you can cast it for that mode, sort of, so I think I like it, actually. It's a pretty cool card. I actually can't write this if I tried. Scryfall gave me, you wouldn't believe this, basic planes again. That's what are the friggin' odds on that? What on earth? What's the likelihood on that? I'm not talking about basic lands again. I mean, I could, but you've already heard me talk about basic lands today. Moving on. What's up with me getting commanders today? It's called Wild Seer Scouring Moor from Bloomberg Commander. It's a 6/6 trampling elemental wolf for 3, a red, and a green. It reads, enchantment spells you cast from your hand have Cascade. Enchantments in Gruul. That is actually really interesting. You know, obviously in this deck you get those green like enchantment ramp cards like a Wild Growth and stuff. Red's got some bananas enchantments. Like Red's got some strange ass enchantments. Giving Cascade. Cascade's really powerful. Also, this is a 5 mana 6/6 trample. Is that just like where we are now? Is that just like a normal thing for card? I mean, I guess it is. You just get free value. Cascade is just free value. It is. You just cast a something enchantment that you're doing stuff with, and you get another one. Not even necessarily another enchantment, maybe just another spell. My man is like on fire. My man is, oh, it's an elemental wolf. Oh, I see. So it's on fire by design, I guess we'll say. But yeah, I can see why it's a 6/6 now. That thing is pretty scary looking. Would you play this in the 99 of any decks? What the hell enchantment decks are there in red and green? There's Cascade decks. I know there's like a Verna and like there's Temur like Maelstrom Wanderer, that sort of thing. Cascade decks. So if you, I'm playing from Exile decks as well. Like Faldorn. Faldorn plays from Exile and it's in Gruul colors. Or like Donan and Passionate Archaeologist, that pairing. Yeah, Gruul cast from Exile has a lot of support, and either you play it in this deck or you play this in their decks. The only problem with playing this in the 99 is you need to have a lot of enchantments, or you need to have at least enough to actually reliably be able to trigger this. It's not like, I suppose, if you're going to be really sad to see this, it's just a huge 5 mana 6/6 trample. So even if you don't get any value of the Cascade, it's still like not the worst thing ever. So I've never seen anyone play it as a commander, or even seen anyone play it in the 99 necessarily, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I like it. Cool. Alrighty, next card is a card I've definitely seen before. Shriekmaw. Look at that. Man, I never really realized how weird the artwork on this card is. Got like an eye underneath its jaw. Oh, it's another elemental. Why are elementals so weird looking? Or cool looking? I mean, the other cat thing, wolf thing. I completely forgot its name already. Really cool looking. This card looks pretty cool too. I like the patterns on its body. It's got arms and scales. Weird elementals. Black elemental. What's a black elemental? Alright. I'm off topic. I'm already off topic and I haven't even read the card yet. It's a 5 mana 3/2 elemental. It's got fear, so fear means it can't be blocked by artifact creatures and black creatures. So it's some form of evasion. It's actually pretty much unblockable unless you're playing as black or artifacts. So anyway, you're not attacking with it. You want it for its ability. What does it do? When it enters the battlefield, you destroy a target non-artifact, non-black creature. So that's a kind of a Doomblade slash like go for the throat. I'm pretty sure those cards do that. You're not paying 5 mana for this. It's got a ability called Evoke, which means you can pay it for 1 in the black instead, but when it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it. So you still get its ETB for 2 mana, but you just lose the creature. It is black. It goes in black creature decks, presumably, if you want some kind of like bad removal, which this is pretty bad. Sorcery speed. You get a dice trigger off this. That's pretty cool. Like in black decks where you get like maybe like a Morbid Opportunist or a Blood Artist or something cool like a dice trigger. You could probably get away with playing this in that sort of deck. Evoke is really underrated. I think Evoke is an incredibly good ability card. You get dice triggers for decks that care about that. This isn't necessarily like the best card I've ever seen. It used to be played a lot more. It would have been one of those like more popular like creature removal options. Yeah, not a bad little card, especially if you do really want dice triggers. It's playable. I think if someone played this, they could probably get away with it. This card is called Planar Atlas. This is from Jumpstart 2022. Look at that. It's a 2 mana rock. It enters the battlefield tapped, and it taps for a colorless. So regardless of what it does, this is already fine. You can play it. It's a good card. This is a mana rock. So I'm going to talk about it now, and then I'm going to talk about it in another video. So I'm going to double up on this card. Why is Scryfall giving me mana rocks? It should know. It should know that I'm about to talk about every single mana rock. So why is it giving me mana rocks? I could just skip this card. Ooh, okay. So we're getting to a card I've actually never seen before. This one's from Assassin's Creed. It's called Hemlock Vial. It's an artifact for 1 in the black. Alrighty, so when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. It also has an ability. You can pay a black and tap and sacrifice it. So pay a black and crack it. And then each equipped creature and equipment you control gains Death Touch until end of turn. What does it mean? What does it mean it gives equipment Death Touch? It doesn't say it gives equipment the ability that the equipped creature gets Death Touch. It gives equipment themselves the ability Death Touch. So if that card deals any amount of damage, it kills a creature. Are you animating equipment? Okay, am I reading this right? It gives okay, I understand it gives equipped creatures Death Touch. That's fine. That makes sense, right? Like I get that. That's actually pretty powerful, by the way. But I'll get to that. It gives equipment you control Death Touch. Just what the doctor ordered. Okay, I like this. It's for black equipment decks, hey? And it gives Death Touch. Could I play this in Tevesh and Dargo? I have actually enough equipments in that deck to where like Dargo is equipped like most games. This also is just an artifact that sacrifices and it also draws a card. Also, if I don't want to sacrifice it to get its Death Touch ability, I can just sacrifice it since it just sits on the field. It might actually be... I don't care about Dargo having Death Touch though. I mean, actually scratch that. He has Trample. Death Touch and Trample is pretty powerful ability combo. That deck is so tight with space though, I don't know if I'd find room for this card. It is a really interesting card though. I love the artwork on it too. I think this is my favorite artwork I've seen today so far. Apart from the just befuddling ability that it gives actual equipment Death Touch, that's crazy. I don't know why they do that. Are you playing this in like artifact decks where you like animate artifacts and you just happen to animate an equipment and you're like, my Hemlock Vial Can give my equipment death touch. Woo. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. That's so specific. If that ever comes up in a game, like if someone ever plays this and they actually animate their equipment and they have this Hemlock Vial and they give their equipment death touch, I would be so floored. I'd be like, wait, I remember talking about that card on one random ass YouTube video. So yeah, giving equipped creatures death touch makes total sense. Very cool. Giving equipment death touch, like what? Who signed off on this card? Like, okay, yeah, we'll make it give equipped creatures death touch. You know what else it should do? It should give the equipment themselves death touch. Aha, yes. Ship it. I don't know. This card's funny. This card is just I've seen things today. Alright, we'll move on. Alrighty, coming up to the last card for today. It's more draft chaff, I think. I've never seen this card in my life. It's from Thunder Junction. It's called Explosive Derailment. It's an instant, it costs a red, but it has spree. You have to pay an additional cost to get any of its abilities. Plus 2 mana to deal 4 damage to a target creature. Or it's plus 2 mana to destroy target artifact. That is kind of just a worse Abrade, I think. I'm pretty sure, and I don't even like Abrade. The only upside I could think of this card is that it is actually technically a 1 mana card. If you're playing any of those cards that like care about like 3 mana or less instants, or sorceries, stuff like that, like this counts as one of those, even though it would already be anyway. And also like Abrade is also that. So yeah, Breaches is apparently blowing up Train in the artwork and the flavor text apparently. The Blast Master, Blast Maker, what's he called? I played him like once and it was an ordeal. Anyway, this card's bad. I don't think even like Lightning Bolt or Abrade is like very good. You could probably play this if you care about like specifically like 1 mana things. Whatever. That's the only interesting thing about it being a spree card compared to it being just a modal card that costs 3. It's cool, but it's bad. I don't know how to tell you. It's cool, but it's just terrible. You're not playing it. I'm not playing it. If you play it, I will laugh at you. I'll make fun of you. This is like the instant sorcery equivalent of playing a Manalith. No, we don't play Manaliths. We don't play Explosive Derailment, apparently. I love this card. I love the flavor, and I love the name, and I love the artwork and the flavor text. Sucks that it's bad, though. I should build a deck just with all bad cards that I like this. Anyway. Cool. Alright, that's just a couple of cards for today. So I'll leave it off. I'll see you guys around, alright? Have a good one.